What is happening, y'all? I'm back. Uh, man, it has been something else here lately. If you want to know what's been going on and where we've been and what's happened and where I've been and all that, you're going to have to tune into the show. I'm not going to get into it here. We've had a rough and rocky patch for quite a bit. We've been traveling. It's been wild. So we should be back to normal. Everything should be good. We survived Snowvid. Everything seems to be flowing and rolling. You're not going to see Little Fizzy in this one. I had him cut me a lot of intros. This was kind of an audible at the line. Some things changed of what I wanted to do with this story, and so I didn't have time to get Little Fizzy. They had some other stuff going on. He'll be back next week on the other episode of The Classroom. So, without further ado, missed you guys, missed being here. It's been an ordeal. So, I'm going to jump right into it. A while back, when I say a while back, this has probably been, hell man, it might have been 2 or 3 years. We covered a story, I believe it was the Meligani, about a giant lizard in Australia, all right, and the sightings and the people that had had it in the outback and in the bush and seen a big-ass lizard, right? Well, this is a story, or a creature, rather. It's along the same lines as that, and it's fun. It's a fun story. And it's about the Arkansas Gogro. Yeah, folks, the Gogro or Gowrow, but Gogro is what we're going to go with. Now you have to follow along here. It's not a long story. There's not like intricate details and deep dives for months or years or even weeks of dealing with it. It's kind of a strange thing to where part of it sounds like it's believable. And like, okay, I could understand that. Another part of it, there may have been some shenanigans. The very first thing you can dig up on it comes from 1897, January 31st of 1897, actually in the Arkansas Gazette. This story appeared. It was written by a fella named Elbert Smithy. Now, what Elbert goes on to talk about is he had talked to a fella. There was an illustration done, a drawing done by a man named Elmer Burns. And Elmer apparently had drawn this picture off of a photograph that he had seen. So, so this is how Smithy's story got involved in this. So Smithy wrote the story after talking to Elmer. Elmer did the drawing and seen the picture from a fella. It's crazy. So the editor of the Gazette is named Alsop, kind of like the gas station, I guess, down here. Fred Alsop. So he was telling the story of Smithy's telling Smithy the story that he had heard from a fella named William Miller. So you can see how we're chasing our tail here already, right? He said. William Miller lived in Little Rock, Arkansas, was a businessman. Doesn't really go into the businessman of what he did. I would assume the way the story kind of counts of his traveling, he could have been any sort of traveling businessman. And of course, back then, that was a big deal. You travel, you're not working from home like we are now. So the story goes that he was in northwest Arkansas in the Ozarks, and he's telling Smithy that he had heard a story about a monster. So he's like, what? And apparently this monster would come out at night and would feed on livestock, pets, all of these crazy stories, right? So the story goes that near Blanco in Searcy County, in Arkansas there. It's near the Calf Creek Township, or it's actually in the Calf Creek Township. Miller got involved and got a group of people because he was curious and wanted to put an end to this thing. I don't really know how he got tied into. They don't go into details of what got Miller spurred into it. So he gets his buddies and they form a posse, right? Bunch of dudes with guns, torches, and they take off into its lair. So apparently there is a cave in this area, this Devil's Hole cave area. And this is where the Gogro was hiding. And the story goes that when the posse arrived to this area, what they found was bones and remains of several different species of livestock animal. Horses, cattle, sheep, whatever else you could imagine. There's probably not going to be remains of chickens. But larger animals, there were bones there. And I'm not sure how the guys could, that's what it is. I'm assuming there was probably hide left, or may have been heads. The story also says that they had found some human remains at the mouth of this cave. So they wait. They're going to ambush this thing. They said they end up hearing it. Get a load of this. They hear it come out of a lake, a nearby lake. And they said that they can feel the ground tremble as this thing is walking back towards its lair. As it gets towards the cave system that it lived in, they open fire. So, you got a picture like Bonnie and Clyde. These dudes are just laying waste to this giant lizard. They do kill it. Now, it says that before it was killed, that it attacked, or in its death throes was able to get a mouth on one of the posse members, tore his leg off. Doesn't say if he expired at the scene, what it was, mangled enough, but anyhow, it crippled him up, attacking him. Then the thing dies. After it's dead, of course, they come out. They're going to measure it. They measure this thing up. They find that it's 20 foot long. They say that it's got 2 giant tusks. Now here's a really unique thing. Besides its feet are webbed. So now we're talking about a giant walrus? Giant tusks, its webbed feet. And they said, of course, it ends in claws. The webbed feet does. This is the interesting part about it, that it had a row of short horns that ran down its back, a long, thin tail that was bladed on the end. It does sound like something that a prehistoric animal that could have possibly been a spinoff that's just left in there. I mean, I have no idea. Story jumps forward to Mr. Williams, says, you know what? We've got it. This is ours. They bring it back to town. They crate this creature. So they build the giant box. They load this creature in and they send it to, that's right, the Smithsonian, where they send everything back in the day, right? And what do you think happened? Nothing. Nobody knows. The story goes that in D.C., the Smithsonian said, hey, man, we never got it. You say it got trucked up here. You say it got delivered. We haven't seen it. It's not here. Conveniently, if it's a hoax, if this is all BS, there's the dead end. But it sure is odd that the story chooses to pick the Smithsonian at this time, already knowing what we know now of the track record of these alleged lost things. Whether it's true or not, who knows? But it kind of starts going hand in hand with things that we've learned about the giants along this stuff. So the story goes, and like it was said, also after hearing all this story, talking to Williams, he's like, man, this is probably a joke, right? This isn't real. This has all been a hoax. You jump forward, there's a fellow named Vance Randolph. And Vance Randolph collects stories, folklore. He knows all about these areas. And so he believes that as early as the 1880s about this thing that was reported, that instead of it being a species of creature, it was an individual offshoot. He believes it was one monster. Like, it's not really a creature. It's not really, this is kind of like a thing that we didn't even know existed, right? He believes, and others believed, that, again, eggs as big as beer kegs, leathery eggs, that the creature would carry them, what sounds like giant lizards or something, right? Would give birth, and that they would hatch these things, and that this lizard or this monster, the Gogro, had a pouch, and that it kept its baby lizards in a pouch, or these baby monsters in there. Now you jump forward to a fella that was exploring the Devil's Hole there in Boone County. And it is said that while he was in there, that he had heard something, and that he was pretty sure what it was, that it was prehistoric. He's like, this thing that I've heard and the things that I have seen in this cave, it's not a mammal. This doesn't seem like something that would be like a bear or something that we would know, that would openly know. So they talk, this took place in Polk County, Arkansas. I don't believe it's the same individual. I believe it was another group of individuals. But the story goes that they gathered up apples. Some say dried apples. Some say, just bad apples. Some say just bushels of apples. And they brought it to the cave area that they knew that this creature was. And they started filling this cave with apples because this thing could eat the apples and get so big it couldn't get out, right? So then people would be like, okay, you've got this thing, whatnot. The story kind of goes that he captured it, that he got it so full it couldn't get out. I guess he got in there with it, got it, tied up, whatever it was. It's bloated, it can't move. The story goes, this fellow, and it doesn't give his name, but this fellow captures this thing, this creature, brings it out, and puts it on display to where anyone could come see it, like at the fair or wherever he was at. It's going to charge you $0.25. Now, here's where it gets a little funky, right? The story goes that he would wait till the audience got large where he could bring it out, and he would say, I'm going in the back to get it. And he would go in the back to get it, and they would hear all kinds of noises, and the fella screaming, and then he would stumble back out onto stage, clothes in tatters, scuffed up, and he would tell everyone the monster has escaped. The Gogro is gone. We have to go look. And people would panic. People would take off. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. What a great scam to get everyone to pay you. Everyone, it got loose. It's escaped us. That's what happened. Then you fast forward. Now, mind you, this is in the 1890s to early 1900s. Sometime prior to 1935, 33, 34, right in there was a fella by the name of E.J. Rhodes. And E.J. Rhodes just so happened that he was a speedlunker. That was the thing that he kind of enjoyed doing. And the story goes that he was at the Devil's Hole, just doing his thing, when he heard something. And that he crawled down, and he did a little cave exploration, and he went down into there, he estimated 200 foot or better into this cave, and could hear something down in there. And he said, look, man, there's nothing should be down in here that deep. There's just nothing. Not a mammal. There's nothing down here for us, right? But what is that? So what he decided he would do is he went and he got him a flat iron, a big old skillet, right? Had a big loop in the end, tied a rope off to it, and he lowered that thing down in that hole. So he crawls back in there, and then he starts lowering this flat iron down in this big expanse down to it. As he's lowering it, he says he thought he felt it hit the bottom. So he's popping it up, right? Like you would jig on a fishing line. He's jigging this thing. Something grabs it. Now, mind you, he's 200 foot down. This is no telling how much further down. Something grabs, tugs, and then boom. He's like, look, man, I'm not talking about hanging up. I'm talking something grabbed it, tugged it, popped it loose. He pulls the rope back up, sheared clean off. Was the last stories that were ever heard about the Gogro. That was it. So if there was an offshoot of some prehistoric creature living in the caves there in Devil's Hole in and around Arkansas, and it may have never got out. The story goes that the men have killed it. Maybe they did become entangled with it. They didn't send it to the Smithsonian because they didn't kill it. So from the 1897 all the way up to the mid-1930s, 33, 34, these stories persisted. A few would pop out of people hearing it. People allegedly something took their horse, took their cows, attacked sheep, and they would even attribute a few missing people that would go stumbling into its lair looking. But after the 1930s, either the Gogro died down there choking on a flat iron, or he just decided to retire. And that's it. And that was the last we've heard of the Gogro. But that's not the last we've heard of the state of Arkansas. Arkansas has a lot of strange creatures that they've seen around through there. But looking over here at the time, that's all I've got time for. That's the Gogro. That's the Cryptid Classroom. And I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Gogro. In fact, my wife has family that lives in Arkansas, and I've driven past the big sign that points to Devil's Hole or whatever it is. So we've talked about stopping by there. Now knowing this, I'm 100% going, and I'll throw some video up, and we'll do some video footage of it. We have a lot of things planned coming up now that this last month is over, that I think you're going to enjoy, that we're fixing to start releasing on there. We have a few, I'll go ahead and give you a primer. We've got a few Bigfoot investigations that we're actually going on. We're going to the woods. We're going with some friends. We're going to some places that have either had sightings, sounds, something's going on. We've been invited. They're all here in Texas right now. We have 3 of them that we're going to go to. We're going to go film. We're going to go stay. We're also going into the Sam Houston National Forest. We're going to go do some camping and hiking all through there for 3 or 4 days, just overnight traveling through it. we have a lot of little things that we want to go check out. So that's coming soon. Sorry for the delay. Like I said, I'm going to have, you'll get to go back and listen to the other shows. You'll find out where we've been, what's been going on. There's been loss of life. There's been bad weather that y'all have probably already seen. There's been a lot of things going, but we're back in the groove. We're back here. It's been a rocky 2020, and 2021's not been off to the best start. So with all that aside, we're going to move forward. Thank y'all again so much for tuning in and checking this out, and like, subscribe, do whatever. But I really, really do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you next week on one, and I have a surprise for y'all next week on the next one. That's the one that I'm working with Lil Fizzy on, so I think it'll work out. Fingers crossed this weather kind of pushes to the side for us to make it happen, but I think you'll really enjoy it. That's it. We're wrapping it up. This is Cameron's Cryptid Classroom. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next week.